Good morning, everybody. Before I start my speech for today, if you wanted to interrupt me or POI me, you can just unmute your mic or write it down in the chatter box and wait for me until I notice you. And I will start my speech in one, two, three. Ladies and gentlemen, these days there were so many people who are purely innocent but are accused and not allowed to nominate themselves as the legislative candidates. And today's motion or the topic of our debate today is banning individuals credibly accused of corruption from running for public office, especially for as a legislative council candidates in Indonesia, such as MPR, DPD, DPR, etc. Credibly accused of corruption refers to claim or allegations made against someone who has a higher position. In this case, a legislative candidate has engaged in corrupt activities such as bribery, fraud, and other unethical behavior that often doesn't accompany or goes by concrete evidence. But before I'm going any further into my points of arguments, I would like to set a limitation into today's debate. That is, we'll only be talking or discussing about the Indonesian government environment, such as the government legislative, and we're not going any further than that. As the first speaker of the opposition team, I heartily renounce the statement from the proposition team because, pardon me, once again I'll repeat the motion, credibly accused of corruption. Why? Because until this day, there is still no evidence about such a things. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like for us to underline the word accused. We agree that corruption is not something that should be justified, but judging someone who is still accused and has no evidence is not an ethical thing to do, either because there has been no confirmation from the authorities themselves, considering that currently we live as a people who are under the name of democracy. Therefore, honorable adjudicators, the mechanism will propose to you to a better to you to be a better rules than the proposal submitted by the proposition team is instead of permanently banning the suspect of corruption, it is better for the KPK to postpone the nomination process until a decision is made, determined by the Constitutional Court with the following application method. First thing first is postpone the nomination. When a candidate is accused of corruption, the KPK will postpone the nomination process of these individuals until the final decision is given by the Constitutional Court. Number two is in-depth investigation. The KPK will conduct a truth investigation into the allegation of the corrupted leveled against the candidate. Number three is appearance in court. Candidate accused of corruption will have the rights to appear and defend themselves in the court. Fourth, constitutional court decision. After going through the court process, the Constitutional Court will make a final decision regarding the candidate's guilt or innocence. And the fifth is that transparency and accountability. Through this entire process, KPK will operate with full transparency and accountability so that the public can monitor and assess the process. With the regulation that have been explained within this proposal, people who are proven innocent can continue their nomination process and be free from defamation. But if it's not, sadly, the person or people who has found not guilty but already carried out the sentence, even though he's not the one who was doing the corruption. Thus, these proven points bring me to my main points of arguments. Or honorable adjudicators, we, the opposition team, object the statement from the proposition team that goes like the government will ban or impose punishment from running as a member of the legislature for those who is accused of committing acts of corruption. Why? Because there is still no any clear resource of information, and this rules is divide human rights and justice. First is the wrongful convictions. Wrongful convictions are growing are a growing concern, although they have been occurring for as long as the judicial system has existed. The point of concern is that accusation without ocular provenance are often misused as an idea to get a certain people into trouble. The government policies are accepted. If the government policies are accepted and implemented into our law, then what about the people that somehow get falsely accused? Because it is actually impossible for the authorities themselves to know for sure if it turns out that the person who has been banned is simply trapped in a pattern of a game created by their own opponent. How could the citizen in one country rely on their own government when the government itself were making such an absurd law by restricting one's mobility just because someone's trial or temporarily accused with no any solid information? Besides from that, there are also economic impacts for these individuals accused and human rights violation of corruption because not only limiting their proficiency but also cross the line of their own rights to choose and get chosen by the voters. my second my second argument is the lack of physical evidence with which states or shown that this individual has already committed a certain amount of corruption. We'll return to the initial points where in this case, the individual is still being accused and is currently in the process of searching for evidence. If only he was immediately sentenced, could this be considered ethically for the citizen in our country who is, as we all know, are highly uphold justice? Because we all know evidence is the key to everything connected by law. This was a very crucial thing that we cannot easily ignore, but it seems like the proposition teams do. Just because you want to prevent one thing from happening doesn't mean you have to stop one's career there. They are still under the name of accused. Therefore, there is still not enough, and even not any proof to do so. Even if you wanted to do, what substantiation did you have to be that what substantiation did you have to be able to discourage this individual? I mean, like imagine you have to give up on your own career just because some false accusation that not even been confirmed by the authority, and you being the powerless citizen you are, who have no such a powers to accept, who have no such a power, but to have to accept that and continue to live in. By all means, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to say is that the government team's decision by banning the accused of becoming a candidate of the government legislative are not only going to prevent the corruption rate, but reduce the citizen trust to the government and also narrowing job opportunities. Thus, with this statement, I will proudly say that we are the opposition team refuse to agree with the proposition team. We believe that our proposals are more reliable and make more sense more than the government teams is. That's all for me. Thank you.
So before I start my speech, I want to tell you guys information that for the government's team, if you guys want to POI me about my arguments, you can just raise your hand and wait for me to notify that, or you can just unmute your mic and say POI. Okay, so my speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Ismail Muntadar Muhajir Nyanis, and I am the second speaker from the opposition team. Okay, so we are going to talk about this motion, which called "This House will ban individuals credibly accused of corruption from running for public office." Okay, from all the arguments that the first speaker tell you guys, I'm probably saying that we're not agreeing with the fact that individuals that got accused for corruption got banned. It is not fair because there is no strong evidence. Okay, let me repeat, there is no strong evidence that prove if they really do the corruption or not. We agree that corruption is really a bad thing, but we don't agree if there is someone that got banned because they are still in accused stage. Okay, why we don't agree? Because there are 2 points that I'm gonna bring up in this statement. First of all, because it impacts not only the individuals that become the candidate, but even the country and the people who lives in it. And the second point is because they are still accused, then there's still a chance that they don't really do it. And because of that, there is still no evidence that prove if they really do the corruption or not. Okay, so first of all, let us have a look for the impact that impact the country and the people, which is we already know that our country, Indonesia, really upholds justice and stand with it. With banning the people who still don't know whether they are guilty or not, isn't that the opposite of what our country stands for? Therefore, because of that, there is no longer any fairness for the people who get accused. I'm gonna ask to the government teams, if that happens, what will the government teams do when the people doesn't trust the government anymore? They don't trust the governments anymore because there are no strong evidence that the government is doing the corruption. But our coming, we're still not agreeing if they got banned for running the public office. What would you do if the people who got accused is proven that they didn't do it? They're adjudicators. What about their defamation? I know that we shouldn't forget that they have their human rights too. They have right to choose and get chosen too. Imagine they're adjudicators and timekeeper. Imagine when there is an individuals that is really good in doing their jobs and is a really strong candidate, but doesn't get a chance to lead or rule the country because they got accused for doing corruption without any evidence. I'm asking you, where is the justice in this motion? Imagine letting someone who's not good enough who's not good enough got chosen and making the balance of the country become unstable. Imagine a country with a lot of protests from the people who didn't trust their government. Back to the point where I'm telling you the impact of the justice, because like we already know from the Pancasila from our country, there are sila number 5 that's called keadilan sosial bagi seluruh Indonesia, which it really opposite the fifth sila in Pancasila on our country. And also, I'm still asking you till now, there's still no evidence from the government's team or the government's team bring up about the people who got accused. Like there is still no evidence. If you're listening to the government team, the people will lost trust to the government. But if you're listening to us, the justice that the country stands with will still be there. Like the adjudicators at the end of the day, the sovereignty are on the hands of the society, which is it's for them, not for us. In the conclusion, we once again firmly and proudly say that we will always not agree from the statement from the government teams and the motion, because there is no strong evidence at all that proven whether they're guilty or not. From everything that I explained, we can see that there are so many negative impacts if we ban the people who got accused for doing the corruption. The fact is, most of the corruption happened inside the public office, not outside. Instead of banning them, why don't we look at the people who do the corruption inside public office? From the mechanism that our first speaker tell, that there are some solution that we bring up, that is that is even if that is even if you wanted to, there are no evidence that you can bring up. So from the mechanism that our first speaker tell you, we know that that we know that we know that I'm sorry. We know that if we still banning the people who got accused, that will make the people and the society lost their trust to the government teams. Okay, that's all from me. I'm sorry if there are any misspell from my arguments. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Before I start my speech, I want to inform you, guys, if you want to POI me, just unmute your mic or raise your hand. I will start my argument in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges and fellow debaters, my name is Rida Salva. I stand before you today to advocate our motion that strikes at the very core of our political landscape is the proposition to ban individual credible accused of corruption from running for public office. In a world where public trust in a government institution is constantly eroding, it's imperative that we take decisive action to combat corruption and restore faith in our democracy. Banning individual merely accused of corruption from seeking public office undermine the fundamental principle of presumptions of innocence and set a dangerous precedent that threaten the rights of individuals to participate in the political process. My team has so far put forward compelling arguments highlighting the dangers of compromising the presumptions of innocence and human rights. However, as the third speaker, I would like to refocus our attention on the broader implication of this motion. The presumption of innocence is a fundamental principle of justice, stating that individuals are considered innocent until proven guilty in court of law. Implementing a ban based solely on accusation could undermine this principle by assuming guilty without due process. To be precise, that's our common concern. Prohibiting individuals from running for public office only on the basis of allegation basically is very, very unfair, honorable judges. What if there is a candidate who is really truly qualified and innocent but cannot participate because of injustice by this base accusation? Wouldn't this make voters have no potential superpower leader? This will undermine the principle of democracy and justice. Once again, I affirm that individuals must be tried based on evidence and legal process, not just accusation. Therefore, imposing a ban on individuals without concrete proof risks unjustly punishing individuals based on verified allegation. Esteemed judges, there exist three compelling points that greatly bolster our legal standing today. First is presumption of innocence. Like I said, upholding the presumption of innocence is crucial for maintaining public trust in the government commitment to fairness and also justice. Imposing a ban based solely on accusation could be perceived as a violation of this principle, leading to skepticism about the government adherence to the rule of law. Second is also potential for abuse. Implementing a regulation to ban individual accused of corruption without sufficient evidence or due process could open the door to abuse of power. Targeting and dissenting voice or political opponents under the guise of combating corruption. Like I said, this could erode public trust in the government integrity and also impartiality. And the last thing is citizens' participation. Banning individuals from running for public office based solely on accusation could discourage qualified candidates from um, participating in the political process, leading to a narrowing of choice for voters. This could undermine public trust in the government commitment to inclusive and representative governance. Ladies and gentlemen, can you imagine a society where the mere whisper of an accusation condemns individuals, stripping them of their fundamental human rights to participate in shaping the future of their nation? Picture a scenario where aspiring leaders passionate about serving their community, but are unjustly barred from running for public office just based on unproven allegation of corruption. In such a world, the very essence of democracy is compromised, as the voice as the voices of the accusers are silenced before they even have a chance to defend themselves. As already presented by our first speaker, rather than implementing a permanent ban on individuals suspected of corruption cases, it is better for the Corruption Eradication Commissions or KPK to postpone the nomination process until a decision is determined by the Constitutional Court. Also, the government should focus on transparency and accountability mechanism to address corruption effectively by enhancing public access to information, promoting whistleblower protection, and empowering independent oversight bodies. The government can demonstrate its commitment to combating corruption while maintaining the public trust, the public trust. And lastly, for the final time, I read it once again that up until this moment, I'm proud to stand firmly within the ranks of the opposition, staunchly rejecting the motion today. Thank you to the judges, to probation team, and to our audience. That concludes my remarks. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.